Good morning guys. Today's video is going to be what to sow in April. Now this is going to be specifically vegetables. There is obviously a whole rafter of flowers, seeds you can sow now, cosmos, zinnias, etc. So don't forget those, but this video is going to be just on vegetables. So yeah, let's get into it. First seed I'm sowing is sweet corn. This variety is called Tyson and it's an early variety that harvests in sort of August, September time. And I'm going to sort of go through a little bit of the sort of intricacies of sowing this now. So in terms of sowing sweet corn, you want to give them quite large pots. They really grow quite quickly. So your sort of 2-inch pots, or in this case, I'm using the sort of HR10 by Hugh Richard design. You can find them on Container Wise. But obviously sweet corn is the kernels that you're sowing, dried kernels. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 1 per cell. I could do more, but they're quite big and they're probably going to like compete with each other quite quickly. So I'm just going to do 1 per cell. Now, as I'm sort of doing this, the main consideration with sweet corn is they want a lot of heat to grow. 25 degrees Celsius if you can give it to them. So what I'll be doing is I will be sort of at least getting these to germinate inside the house before I sort of start hardening them off and bringing them outside. The other thing to bear in mind is with sweet corn is you want to be planting it when you plant it out in blocks because it's wind pollinated. So you sort of need them quite close together so that the sort of tassels on the sweet corn are able to deliver pollen to these sort of other plants in the vicinity. So yeah, that's number 1. Second seed to sow is parsnips. Now I've got a variety here called White Gem, which I grew last year, and I made a whole video on from seed to harvest, which I'll put a link to up here. And in that video, I go through everything from sowing it, watching it grow, all the way up to basically harvesting it. So if you're interested in growing parsnips this year, do check that video out. But in you know, sort of fairness, it's not particularly complicated. The most difficult thing with parsnips is that, wow, the seeds blow around a lot, but also the seeds don't germinate particularly well. They're quite sort of stubborn, so don't be shy when you're sowing them. So unlike carrots where you sow quite thinly, I sow these fairly thickly, and it's just because some of them are just not going to germinate. It doesn't matter what you do, they just don't germinate. But the main thing that deters sort of germination is if the soil dries out. So I've got some really wet weather coming up, so I'm not too worried about this. If anything, I'm worried about the seeds waterlogging, but this should do quite well. And it's really just it's one of the few that I direct sow. Carrots and parsnips are the only ones that I direct sow. Everything else I try and grow in modules, so if we get a bit better protection. We'll need to give these some protection from slugs if possible, but other than that, it's pretty straightforward growing parsnips. Now my next seed is another warmth loving crop, a bit like sweet corn, and that is pumpkins or winter squashes. Now you can sort of do these in April, May, but if you're doing them in April like I am, you're going to germinate them indoors because they need that warm temperature. But I am going to do an experiment, and I'm going to sort of publish a short on how this experiment goes. But what I heard was that if you nick the seeds, and I'll do a close-up, show you exactly what I mean. If you nick the seeds in terms of making a little notch in them, it allows the moisture to get into the seed quicker, and then it allows the seed to germinate quicker. And some people are saying they get germination within 2 or 3 days. So I'm quite interested to see if this works. I'm going to do 3 pots where they're unnicked, just planted like normal. I'll label them up, and then I'll do another 3 which are nicked seeds, and we'll see if that makes a difference. So in terms of planting pumpkins, I'm going to start with the sort of clipped seeds or the nicked seeds. But the variety I'm growing is Burgess Buttercup, and it's from real seeds. And I like the idea of this one because not only does it look kind of cool, quite sort of green and knobbly, but also it's supposed to taste really well. And I love pumpkin soup, so I'm quite interested in this one. Now what I've got here, quite windy today, I've got to make sure I secure everything, is obviously the seeds. They're quite big seeds and things, but what I saw, God, I always worry about doing things like this, on this video is that they just nick the side of the seed. So I've got some wire cutters here, and I'm not nicking into the seed too much. I wasn't even nicking it at all then. But what I'm doing is just trying to nick off so that you get, and I'll do a close-up picture maybe, so you can just sort of see the green. And then when I plant pumpkins, I plant them side on. I'm told it doesn't really make a difference, but the idea is that the water will run off the seed rather than pooling on top of the seed and causing it to rot. So again, I'm not sure how this is going to come out on video, but I'm just going to nick the seed again. Yeah, a small opening, lovely. Pop it in. And yeah, I'll release a short later on about how this ends up playing out. But that's pretty much planting pumpkins. That's all there is to it. So the final two sort of seeds that I'm going to be sowing now, and the reason I'm lumping them together is because you sow them very similarly, is some autumn sort of harvesting broccoli and some Brussels sprouts. Now, big advice for growing anything now in sort of April is don't forget your winter harvest. So in winter, things don't grow. So anything like parsnips, Brussels sprouts, your winter squashes and things like that, none of it grows around the time you're harvesting it. It's all got to sort of grow during the summer when it's lots of light, lots of photosynthesizing going on. So when you're planning your garden and things, just don't forget about the winter vegetables as well. So I hope you liked that video, and if you do, don't forget to like and subscribe. But with sort of sowings in April, there is an abundance of stuff you can sow. Anything that you could sow in February and March, you could sow now. The only thing maybe that's getting a little bit late is maybe your warmth-loving plants, like your tomatoes and chilies. May have missed the boat for that, but arguably, I'd still give it a go. The only thing that might happen is you might, at the end of the season, have lots of green, sort of unripe fruit. But I really hope you like this video, and yeah, see you all soon for more videos.